Hello everyone, I'm Janet Gallo-Markowski from Pearl Yoga and Fitness.
Hi, and I'm Melanie Flager.
And we are doing our Yoga Chocolate and Chit Chat live on IG today. Of course, we're gonna post it to all the platforms we've been posting it, but we decided to try something different as opposed to what we've been doing. And so this week's episode, if you haven't been following first, let me just fall back a little bit. If you haven't been following, we launched this Yoga Chocolate and Chit Chat, sort of a talk show, sort of a, my mother-in-law calls it a podcast. We've had a couple people call it podcasts, but really what it is just some candid conversation between Melanie and I about topics that we feel relate to our clients, the community we have here at Pearl, and therefore probably a lot of other people as well, and also ourselves. So we started this because we have so many what I perceive to be deep conversations, and we come up with some revelations sometimes that I feel could help other people if they knew that they're not the only person who is maybe experiencing whatever we're talking about. And it could be light and funny, as in one of our episodes, if you go to our YouTube channel, is pretty light and funny about noises you hear when you're doing yoga. Or it could be something a little bit more on the serious side, which in today's case, we're talking about setting personal boundaries. So some people might perceive that to be a little bit more on the rigid side. So nonetheless, we're going to open up the conversation. And so I'll just prompt Melanie with a question that when she hears personal boundaries, what does that make you think of?
I don't know. I think of it two ways. I think of personal boundaries could be my personal space, like my side of the bed. That's my chair. These are my things, right? So don't touch them. But I also think of it as personal boundaries of, as far as my mental state, having to set boundaries that things that are negative or toxic or don't benefit me, I don't want to let them in. I want to try to keep them out. So,
yeah. That makes sense. So personally, I think of the mental state. So I think it's interesting that you talked about the physical state, because for some reason, it doesn't trigger that, but it could, right? So we know when someone's in our physical space, when someone's crossed our boundaries in the sense that they're close to us, like we're a little bit close right now, so if she had some personal boundary issues, she might be like, Janet, we need to do something about the situation here, right, because this isn't my space. But then, of course, you have the mental boundary, which, let me tell you, as a yoga instructor, as somebody who teaches people to try to calm down and to be more open and more grounded, this is such a relevant conversation, because when you're in an industry of being calm and helping people, there's sometimes this expectation that you're not going to have any boundaries, that you're just always going to be open and available, that you need to be on demand, that you if you're not softening to an external factor, then you're somehow not operating within the guidelines and the image of what someone expects, you know, a yoga instructor or you know, however you want to label that, but somebody who is in the service of helping humans, right? There's just this expectation that you're always supposed to be available, and that if you have personal boundaries and you assert them, then you're not what everybody thought you were supposed to be. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. So it's like we're in the service industry of always being there for our clients, making them feel good, making them feel comfortable, making this feel like home to them. This is their safe zone. And they sometimes feel like that you can come in and do anything, say anything, whatever, and we shouldn't get agitated, or we shouldn't be like, whoa, I don't want to talk about that with you, right?
Because that's personal boundary, right? Because a conversation that's off, a little too much.
Because we're here to, yogis are all supposed to be lovely, beautiful, calm, non-anxiety people, right? No.
We're not supposed to have like expectations or
Yes,
standards or yeah, there is, and I'm not saying that that's how everybody feels about it, but there is. So let's get into the granular situation, maybe where this has happened to you, where you felt like you needed to assert a personal boundary with regards to teaching yoga, or maybe in a friendship, or with. I will tell you where it comes up probably the most for people.
I know what you're going to say. In the workplace.
In the workplace.
In the workplace. Not this workplace, but we've both had incidents in our workplace, right? Where maybe, I know Janet has, I've had too, where that one employee at lunchtime maybe is always telling the off-color joke. Maybe is always, there's always a tone to whatever they're saying that rubs you the wrong way, right? So I know for me that happened to me in my work. It was one employee, always the off-color joke, always, and I'm eating my lunch. I'm like, I really, not the time or place. And when you address it, I became the prude. I was a prude because I didn't think she was funny, and I'm like, it's just not appropriate. I don't want to hear it.
And so let's be clear, right? I always feel like I have to make this distinction when I'm talking about boundaries with people. It's not to say that someone's wrong,
right,
because they do that, right? So let's just say, for example, someone has an opinion, someone behaves a certain way. There might not be anything, there's nothing wrong with the fact that they do that, the things that they say, the way that they might behave. But it's when you feel, or the person feels, that it's impacting their boundary, which is, boundaries are really just where we feel comfortable, right? So it goes beyond where we feel comfortable with somebody. For Melanie, she has a couple options. She could say to the person, I want to be sitting here at lunch with you guys. It's off time. It's not, we're not working. I choose to be here. I'd like to stay here. So if you could refrain from that,
right,
it would be appreciated. That's one option. And they can choose to honor that or not.
Right.
And there's no wrong answer. So I don't want to use this as a way of vilifying people, because I think that sometimes when we talk about the personal boundaries, that's why people steer clear of it, because they feel like it makes other people feel bad.
Right.
And that's not the case, right? So for me, a personal boundary could be something like, I'll be honest, I sleep on Saturday afternoons, right? I take naps on Saturday afternoons. It's my favorite time to just check out and relax and reboot, right? So that's a personal boundary for me, would be like somebody or something is inviting me to something during that time. And let's just say that they know and they're aware that that time usually is a sacred time for me. It's a personal boundary for me. It doesn't make them wrong for setting that time for an event to take place.
Right.
But if you wanted to honor my personal boundary, then you might say, well, I know that she's more likely to not be there.
Right.
So let me make it at a different time.
Yes.
If not, it's not a big deal, but I have to assert my boundary for my own mental well-being. Like, this is something my body and my mind has come to expect. If I choose to relax the boundary for an event, it's my choice. And that might happen one day by chance. I might decide, that something is important enough that I'm going to relax that boundary. But I think we sometimes, it makes people feel bad, and that's why as people in the service industry, you're, I don't want to say expected to, but there's a little bit more of an expectation that you're going to allow more.
Yes.
You're going to allow more because you're not going to want to make the person feel bad.
Yes. You don't ever, you and it's even like you can, I think about family too, right? So sometimes in your family, there are people that they have expectations of, whenever you call, they're going to come, you're going to come, you always have this amount of time for them, I need you to do this, this, and this, and then you pull back a little because you're like, no, not today. or no, I already made plans today. But we feel bad. You feel that little bit of, all right, did I make the right decision? Should I have helped them? Should I have done this? But you have to say to yourself, no,
Right.
I already made plans today. This is what I have my mind to do. I'm allowed to do this. And it's okay if you feel a little bad that you said no. That's normal, right? We're normal creatures. So it's okay to do that. But we have to set some sort of boundaries for our own mental well-being, right?
Yeah, for our own.
Mhm.
I saw this quote the other day. It was so cool. It was like, boundaries are the place where I could safely love you. That's the place where I could safely meet to love you. That's what a boundary is. And I'm glad you brought up family, because I do believe that family and friends are the most difficult people to hold your boundary to, because you love them.
Yeah.
And because you care about them,
Yeah.
and you don't want to hurt their
Of course,
feelings.
of course.
And that is definitely where I would say I struggle the most, because I absolutely love the people I love,
Of course.
and I
yes.
want to be available to them, not just for them, but for me,
Mhm.
because of the joy that I get from being with them. But then there are times where I am sacrificing my own
Right.
well-being
Right.
and stretching beyond what I know makes
Yes.
everything whole in here, that I have to say, okay, they will understand. This is not about how I feel about them. This is about taking care of me.
Mhm.
So I think not only setting boundaries, but enforcing and
Mhm.
asserting boundaries is where people get most hung up.
Yeah.
Because this is a very difficult thing to do when you love the person. It's easy when you don't like them.
Yeah.
But when you love somebody,
It's very hard. And I know, members, friends of mine and everything have had some, pushing and pulling with siblings, whatever, that expected this of them and expected that of them. And they've had to take the time to just say, I need time for me. Like, I need time for me. And then there's that constant, well, I asked you to do this and you didn't do it. You worry about there always being that conflict. That somebody was like, oh, the last time I asked Melanie to do something, she said no. If she was too busy or whatever. And it's very hard, and it's taken me a very long time to realize that I'm important too,
Yeah.
right? So the minute I started taking care of myself and saying no a little bit, because I don't like to not please people, that's who I am. The minute you start saying no, and no, not today, not today. Or my favorite phrase, and we will say, is, no nonsense today. Not today.
No.
No nonsense, right?
Right.
So I think once you start doing that, you all of a sudden you're like, wow, I'm a little less anxious. I'm a little less stressed. I can relax a little more because you don't feel that constant pull.
Right.
tugging.
And then when you do show up for people, you're a better person.
Yes.
Because you've taken care
Yes.
of yourself first. You've put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Absolutely.
And then or it'd be similar to, let's just say you love somebody, but you can't spend an overwhelming amount of time with them. Because you know that when you spend an overwhelming amount of time, it's just a lot.
Mhm.
It's a lot. It's exhausting, but
Yeah.
you love them.
Of
So
course.
you want to be present for them. When you set the boundaries, what you're really doing is not just loving yourself, you're enabling yourself to show up for them
Yeah.
better. Because in your mind, you've
Right.
taken care of
Yeah.
yourself. So you could say, all right, I know I'm going in this because I want to be there for the person, or I want to be around them, but I also know that at a certain point I become depleted, I feel exhausted, or I need to step aside. And it might not just be a person, it could just be in general, how you
Yeah.
feel in social interactions, that there's this balance you're playing. And you can show up
Yes.
more compassionate
Yes.
when you've taken care of yourself.
Right. You go into it a little less agitated from the start, right?
And resentful.
And resentful.
Yes.
Because sometimes you walk into a situation, and I mean, we've all done it, where you're like, oh God, I really don't want to be here. I know. And
Right.
you put that negative spin on it before you even walk in the door. So if you set your boundaries ahead of time, you can go in with a
Your
more
mind is like,
positive-
all right,
yes.
you've negotiated with me.
Yes.
I know I'm going to get what I
Mhm.
need.
Yeah, of course.
After this, I know that there's, on the other side of this is rest.
Yes. Is
And
rest.
honoring that is
Mhm.
important.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, and the other thing too is setting your boundaries. If you're a social media person, like, set your boundaries with the people you're friends with. We're all friends with 1,000 million people. If there's that one or two feeds that constantly come through, that every time you read them, you get agitated, or it triggers something in you, or it's negative, and it's, go through your social media, set those boundaries. Just unfollow them or snooze them for 30 days. See if it makes you feel better, right? Because that's a boundary too. Is too much stuff coming into your brain every day that triggers you negatively, or brings out something in you that you just or you get agitated by just looking at it, then don't look at it.
Yeah.
Take a little break from it every day.
Right.
It
doesn't mean you don't love
no.
the other person on the other side, or that you won't come back to it.
Absolutely.
It just means that you recognize this is affecting you in a way that is not self-serving.
Yes.
And what self-service is all about, self-care, self-love is really about service, because
Yes.
we take care of ourselves so that we can then do what we're meant to do to other people.
Yes.
So in honoring yourself, what you're really doing is you're not doing it for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
In the end, you're doing it so that you could be the vessel for whatever purpose that you were meant to be for.
Yeah.
And so therefore, at the end of the day, it's a karmic exchange. And that's it. Well, we plan on being here at 11 o'clock every Wednesday on this platform, though we will post all of the episodes to our YouTube channel, and they will also be on Facebook. But we would love to know what you guys would like to hear us talk about. We have so many topics that we would love to touch on, but more importantly is what it is that you guys feel you would like to hear us chit-chat about on a Wednesday while we sip tea and eat chocolate. So if you have anything, please drop them in the comments. Otherwise, we're super grateful for anyone who takes the time to listen to what we have to say on any particular topic. So we look forward to this, and we look forward to seeing you.
Namaste.